West Berlin, October 1974. The city didn't just exist. It loomed. It was an island of neon and concrete drowning in a sea of Soviet red, a place where the air always tasted of wet coal and unfiltered tobacco. For Elias Thorne, a man who had spent the better part of 15 years trading whispers for secrets, the city was less a home and more a waiting room. He was a case officer for the Central Intelligence Agency, though his cover as a logistical consultant for a frantic import-export firm was dull enough to be entirely believable. It was a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that felt identical to the Monday before it and the Wednesday that would follow. The sky was a bruised purple, threatening rain that never quite fell, just a misty suspension that clung to wool coats and chilled the bones. Elias needed coffee, not the sludge they served at the station, but the real thing. He walked 3 blocks from his office, checking his reflection in shop windows, not out of vanity, but out of habit. A lingering glance to see if the gray sedan was still there. It wasn't, or maybe they had switched cars. Paranoia was the rent you paid for living in this city. He ducked into Das Café der Engel, a narrow establishment on a side street in Charlottenburg. It was a place of dark wood, polished brass, and the comforting hum of an espresso machine that sounded like a small steam engine. It was his sanctuary. The rules of tradecraft usually dictated avoiding patterns, but Elias allowed himself this one vice. A man without a routine was a ghost, and sometimes you needed to feel like a person. He took a seat at the back, facing the door, always facing the door. He placed his damp hat on the table and unfolded a copy of Die Welt. He wasn't reading it. He was using it as a shield, a way to observe the room without engaging it. The waitress approached. She was new, or at least new to his shift. She was young, perhaps in her mid-20s, with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun that did little to hide the stray curls escaping around her temples. Her name tag read, Lena. She looked tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that comes not from physical labor, but from mental strain. Her eyes were darting, scanning the room, checking the corners. Elias recognized the look. He saw it in the mirror every morning. Ein Kaffee bitte, Elias said, his German practiced, flattened of its American accent. Black. Of course, she said. Her voice was tight, brittle. When she returned with the cup, her hand trembled. Just a fraction, a micro-tremor that caused the ceramic to clink softly against the saucer. As she placed the coffee down, she didn't pull away immediately. She leaned in, ostensibly to reach for the sugar dispenser to wipe a non-existent spill. It happened in less than a second. It was a brush pass, clumsy but effective. Her hand grazed his knuckles. He felt the friction of paper. Enjoy, she whispered, the word barely a breath. She walked away quickly, too quickly, disappearing behind the swinging doors of the kitchen. Elias didn't move. He didn't look at his hand. He picked up his coffee, blew on the steam, and took a sip. It was bitter, hot, and grounding. Only then did he slide his hand under the table, unfolding the small scrap of paper she had pressed against his skin. It was a receipt pad slip. On the back, written in shaky ballpoint ink, were 3 words in English. They're watching me. Elias stared at the words. The ink was smudged where her thumb had pressed down hard. They. In Berlin, they could mean anyone. The Stasi, the KGB, the West German BND, or maybe a jealous ex-boyfriend. But waitresses didn't typically drop notes to random customers unless they knew who those customers really were. And that was the problem. Elias Thorne was a ghost, or he was supposed to be. If a waitress in a random cafe knew he was someone worth passing a note to, his cover wasn't just blown, it was incinerated. He finished his coffee. He left a generous tip, enough to be polite but not memorable. He pocketed the note. As he walked out into the cold Berlin mist, he realized the sanctuary was gone. The game had found him again. Elias didn't go back to the office. He went to a public library, then a cinema, then a department store. He spent 2 hours cleaning his trail, doubling back through the U-Bahn, stepping onto trains, and stepping off just as the doors closed. He needed to be certain he wasn't being trailed before he initiated any protocol. Once satisfied he was clean, he made his way to a safe house in Kreuzberg. A dusty apartment above a bakery that smelled perpetually of yeast and car exhaust. Inside, he had a secure line. He didn't call the station chief directly. He dialed a cutout number, a laundry service that didn't exist. "I have a contamination," Elias said when the line clicked open. "Low level. Possible ident breach." "Proceed," the voice on the other end said, mechanical and bored. "I need a trace on a civilian. Lena, waitress at Das Café der Engel, Charlottenburg. I need everything. Birth, residency, affiliations, and I need it an hour ago." He hung up. He spent the next 4 hours sitting in the dark, smoking cigarettes, watching the street through the slats of the blinds. Who was she? Was this a provocation, a honey trap? The Soviets loved honey traps. They would find a woman with sad eyes, put her in the path of a lonely American, and wait for nature to take its course. But this felt different. The fear in her eyes had been primal. Acting requires energy. Her fear looked like it was draining her. When the dossier came, it was delivered via a dead drop in a park 3 miles away. Elias retrieved the hollowed-out magnetic key case from under a park bench and returned to the safe house to read the microfilm. Her name wasn't Lena. It was Katya Volkov, born in Dresden, East Germany, 1949. That explained the accent. She had crossed into the West legally in 1968, just before the crackdowns intensified. Her file was thin, almost suspiciously so. No political affiliations, no criminal record. She worked, she paid taxes, she lived in a small walk-up in Schöneberg. But there was one detail that made Elias's heart stop for a beat. Her father was Andrei Volkov. Elias knew the name. Everyone in the European division knew the name. Andrei Volkov had been a mid-level logistics officer for the East German military, a man who managed supply chains for the border guards. He had vanished in 1970. The official story from the East was a car accident. The rumor in the West was that he had been liquidated for black marketeering. But there was a third theory, whispered in the sub-basements of Langley. Volkov hadn't died, and he hadn't stolen tires. He had stolen codes. Supply route codes that mapped the blind spots in the Iron Curtain. If Katya was his daughter, she wasn't just a waitress. She was a loose end. Elias burned the dossier in the bathroom sink, watching the celluloid curl and vanish into black ash. If the Stasi, the East German Ministry for State Security, was watching her, it meant they thought she knew something. It meant they were done waiting. The note wasn't a plea for help from a stranger. It was a plea for help from the only entity that could possibly save her. Somehow she knew who Elias was, and that meant the Stasi likely knew too. He checked his weapon, a standard-issue Browning high power. He checked the clip. He put on his coat. He wasn't going to report this up the chain yet. If he did, the station would extract him and leave the girl to the wolves. They would view her as a liability. Elias, for reasons he couldn't quite name, perhaps the memory of her trembling hand, decided he needed to hear her out. He waited until her shift ended. It was 11 p.m. when she exited the rear door of the cafe, swapping her apron for a heavy woolen coat. She walked with her head down, clutching her purse tight to her chest. Elias followed her. He stayed on the opposite side of the street, 50 yards back, merging with the shadows. She didn't go home. She walked to a small park, a patch of struggling green surrounded by brutalist architecture. She sat on a bench under a flickering street lamp. She was waiting for him. Elias approached slowly, making sure his footsteps were audible. He didn't want to startle her more than necessary. He sat on the other end of the bench, leaving a respectful distance between them. "You have terrible handwriting," Elias said softly. Katya didn't jump. She let out a long, shuddering breath. "I was writing on a napkin tray while my manager was watching. It is not easy." "How did you know?" Elias asked. He didn't look at her. He watched the perimeter. "You come in every Tuesday and Thursday. You sit in the back. You read the newspaper, but you never turn the pages. You watch the mirror behind the bar. You check your watch every 12 minutes. She turned to look at him, her eyes dark and intelligent. "You are not a businessman, Herr Thorn. Businessmen look at women. You look at exits." Elias allowed a small, grim smile. "I need to work on my tradecraft." "Who are they, Katya?" "The men in the gray raincoats," she said. "They started 3 weeks ago, just one at first, standing across from my apartment, then two, They follow me to the market. They don't try to hide. They want me to see them. Intimidation, Elias noted. Standard psychological pressure. Have they approached you? Yesterday, she said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. One of them came to the cafe. He didn't order. He just sat there. When I walked by, he grabbed my wrist. He said, "The anniversary is coming. Tell us where it is and you can go back to being nobody." The anniversary, Elias mused. Your father? She stiffened. You checked me. I did. Andrei Volkov disappeared 4 years ago next week. He didn't disappear, she said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. He ran. He left my mother and me in Dresden to face the questions, the raids. My mother died of a heart condition 6 months later because the stress destroyed her. I barely got out. They think he left something with you, Elias said, or told you something. He told me nothing, she snapped, then lowered her voice, looking around fearfully. He was a selfish man. He cared about his lists and his schedules. He didn't care about us. The Stasi doesn't care about the truth, Katya. They care about closure. If they think you have something, they will tear your life apart until they find it, even if it doesn't exist. That is why I came to you, she said. She reached into her pocket. Elias's hand drifted toward his gun, but she pulled out a pack of cigarettes. I need to leave. I need to get out of Berlin. Totally out. To America. To Canada. Anywhere. It's not that simple, Elias said. I can't just wave a wand. I have leverage, she said. She lit the cigarette, the flame illuminating the sharp angles of her face. My father sent me a letter, 3 days before he vanished. It was nonsense, rambling about his childhood, about a music box he gave me. I kept it because it was the last thing he wrote. But last night, after the man grabbed me, I looked at it again. She turned to him fully now. The music box, I still have it. It plays for Elise, but the notes are wrong. In the middle section, it skips. It repeats a sequence. Elias felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. A cipher. I think so, she said, and I think that's what they want. If I give it to you, can you get me out? Elias looked at her. This was the game, the transaction. Lives for data. He should call it in. He should have a team swarm the apartment, seize the box, and debrief her in a windowless room. But if the Stasi were watching her apartment, a swarm would trigger a firefight. Where is the box? Under the floorboards in my bedroom, she said. If I go back there, I don't think I'm coming out again. The plan was formed in the dark, whispered between puffs of smoke. It was reckless, hasty, and violated half a dozen agency regulations. Elias loved it. They couldn't go to her apartment together. If she was being watched, a strange man entering with her would trigger an immediate response. They had to be smarter. Go home, Elias instructed. Act normal. Turn on the lights. Make tea. Wait 45 minutes. Then, turn off the bedroom light. That's my signal. I'll come in through the fire escape. We get the box, and we go out the roof. And if they come in before then? She asked. Then scream, Elias said grimly. And pray I'm fast. He watched her walk away, a solitary figure against the gloom. He gave her a 10-minute head start before he began his own approach. He circled her block, moving through the alleyways, stepping over puddles of stagnant water and refuse. Her building was a pre-war tenement, scarred by shrapnel from 30 years ago that had never been plastered over. Elias spotted the surveillance team immediately. A sedan parked 2 blocks down, engine off, 2 silhouettes inside. There was likely a static post too, someone in a building across the street with optics. He made his way to the rear of the building. The fire escape was rusted, a skeleton of iron clinging to the brick. He climbed, testing each rung before committing his weight. The metal groaned, a sound that seemed deafening in the silence, but the city noise, a distant siren, a passing truck, masked his ascent. He reached the 4th floor, Katya's window. The light was on. He checked his watch. 30 minutes had passed, 15 to go. He crouched on the grating, peering through the gap in the curtains. She was there. She was sitting at a small wooden table, a cup of tea in her hands. She wasn't drinking it. She was staring at the door. Suddenly she stood up. She looked toward the hallway. Elias couldn't hear anything through the glass, but he saw her body language shift. She backed away. The door to her apartment didn't open. It exploded inward. Splinters of wood sprayed across the room. Two men rushed in. They weren't wearing gray raincoats now. They were in tactical gear, efficient and brutal. One grabbed Katya, throwing her onto the sofa. The other began tearing the room apart, sweeping books off shelves, flipping the mattress. Elias didn't wait for the signal. He wrapped his elbow in his coat and smashed the window pane. The sound was like a gunshot. He vaulted into the room, glass crunching under his boots. The man tossing the room spun around, reaching for a weapon inside his jacket. Elias was faster. He didn't shoot. Gunfire would bring the police. He closed the distance in 2 strides and drove the heel of his palm into the man's chin, snapping his head back. The man crumbled. The second man, the one holding Katya, hesitated. That hesitation cost him. Elias leveled his Browning at the man's center of mass. "Let her go," Elias said, his voice low and steady, "or you leave in a bag." The agent looked at his fallen comrade, then at the gun. He shoved Katya toward Elias and raised his hands. "Get the box!" Elias barked at Katya, never taking his eyes off the Stasi agent. Katya scrambled across the floor, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She pried up a loose section of parquet flooring near the bed. She pulled out a small, ornate wooden box. "I have it!" she cried. "Go to the window," Elias ordered. "You are making a mistake, American," the Stasi agent sneered. "There is nowhere to run. The block is sealed." "Watch me," Elias said. He moved backward, grabbing Katya by the arm. "Out. Now." They scrambled onto the fire escape. Elias holstered his weapon and kicked the agent back into the room as he tried to follow. They raced up, not down. The roof was the only way. The roof of the tenement was a landscape of tar paper and chimneys. The wind was stronger up here, whipping Katya's hair across her face. "They'll be coming up the stairs," Elias shouted over the wind. "We have to cross to the next building." "Cross how?" Katya looked at the gap between the buildings. It was only 4 feet, but 4 stories down was a drop into a concrete alleyway that promised nothing but a permanent end. "Jump," Elias said. "Don't look down, just look at the other side." He threw his coat over the barbed wire separating the roofs. He went first, leaping the gap with an agility that belied his age. He landed in a roll and sprang up, extending his hand. "Come on." Katya stood on the ledge. She clutched the music box to her chest like a lifeline. She closed her eyes for a second, then jumped. She landed hard, stumbling, but Elias caught her, pulling her upright. They ran across the connected rooftops of the block, a desperate parkour through the Berlin night. Behind them, they heard the heavy thud of boots on the roof they had just left. Flashlight beams cut through the mist, searching for them. "Down here." Elias pointed to a maintenance hatch on the 3rd building over. He pried it open. It led into a dark stairwell. They descended into the belly of an unfamiliar building. It smelled of cabbage and old damp wool. They exited into a different street, 3 blocks away from the surveillance team. Elias hailed a taxi. It was a risk, but they needed distance. "Where are we going?" Katya asked, her voice hollow. "Nowhere," Elias said. "We're going to keep moving until I know we're clear." He had the driver take them to the zoo station. They got out, walked through the terminal, and exited on the other side. They took another taxi to Wedding. Finally, Elias led her to a small, nondescript hotel that rented rooms by the hour. It was seedy, but the clerk didn't ask for ID if you slipped him an extra 20 marks. In the room, wallpaper peeling, a single flickering bulb, Katya collapsed onto the bed. She was still clutching the box. "We're safe for now," Elias said, locking the door and wedging a chair under the handle. "Let me see it." She handed him the box. It was old, inlaid with mother of pearl. Elias wound the key. The mechanical melody of Fur-Elise began to play. It was tinny and sweet. Then it stuttered. Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. It wasn't just a skip. It was a pattern. Morse code hidden in the rhythm. Elias pulled out a notepad. He listened, rewound, listened again. LOCKER 402 BHF ZOO Locker 402. Bahnhof Zoo, Elias translated. Your father didn't put the information in the box. He put the location of the information in the box. Katya stared at the notepad. Bahnhof Zoo? The train station? The busiest place in the city? Elias nodded. Smart. A locker key hidden in plain sight. So we go get it? No, Elias said, pacing the small room. If the Stasi cracked the code, and eventually they would have, they might already be watching the lockers, or they might be watching the station hoping your father would return. But he's dead, she said. Is he? Elias looked at her. Or is he waiting for you to open the door? They spent the night in the hotel room. Elias didn't sleep. He sat by the window, watching the street. Katya dozed fitfully, waking up with gasps every hour. By morning, the adrenaline had faded, replaced by a cold, sharp dread. Elias knew he had to call the station. He couldn't run a solo extraction of a high-value asset with a hostile intelligence service on his tail. He needed resources. He needed a clean car. He needed backup. He left Katya in the room with strict instructions not to open the door for anyone, not even room service. He went to a payphone 3 blocks away. It's Thorn, he said when the line connected. I have the package. I have the key. I need an extraction team at Extraction Point Delta at 1400 hours. Thorn, where the hell have you been? The station chief's voice was furious. We had reports of a disturbance in Schöneberg. Was that you? The opposition moved on the girl. I intervened. You went off the reservation, Elias. You compromised the mission. I saved the asset, Elias countered. She has the location of the Volkov data. Do you want it or not? There was a silence on the line. Extraction Point Delta, 1400. Don't be late. And Elias? If you bring heat down on my team, I'll hang you out to dry. Elias hung up. He didn't trust the chief. He didn't trust anyone. But he had no choice. He returned to the hotel. Katya was sitting on the bed, staring at the music box. We have to move, he said. We're going to get the contents of that locker, and then I'm putting you on a plane. Why are you doing this? She asked. You don't know me. It's my job, Elias said automatically. No, she shook her head. I've seen men do their jobs. They are efficient. They are cold. You looked afraid when those men came in. Not for yourself, for me. Elias paused. He adjusted his tie in the mirror. Everyone deserves a chance to get out, Katya. Your father tried to give you one. I'm just making sure the check clears. Bahnhof Zoo was a chaotic hive of humanity. Tourists, commuters, soldiers, drug addicts, and spies all mixed in a swirling current of noise. It was the perfect cover and the worst trap. Elias had Katya wear a headscarf and sunglasses. He wore a worker's cap and a heavy jacket he'd bought from a second-hand store that morning. They moved through the crowd separately, Elias trailing 10 feet behind her. They found the locker banks, wall after wall of gray metal doors. Number 402 was on the bottom row. Do you have the key? Elias whispered as he passed her. She nodded. She knelt down, pretending to tie her shoe. She slid a small silver key, one she had found taped inside the mechanism of the music box earlier that morning, into the lock. It turned. She opened the door. Inside was a leather satchel. It was dusty, smelling of old leather and time. She pulled it out. As she stood up, a hand clamped onto her shoulder. Fräulein Volkov, a voice purred. Elias saw it happen. A man in a beige trench coat had stepped out from behind a pillar. He wasn't Stasi. He was KGB. The Soviets had arrived. Elias didn't hesitate. He pulled the fire alarm on the wall next to him. The klaxon shrieked, a deafening wail that cut through the station noise. Panic was instantaneous. The crowd surged. Elias used the confusion, shoving commuters aside, barreling toward Katya. The KGB agent was distracted by the alarm, looking around for the source. Katya swung the heavy leather satchel, hitting him square in the face with the brass buckle. He stumbled back, clutching his nose. Elias grabbed her hand. Run! They sprinted through the station, weaving through the stampede of people fleeing the imagined fire. They burst out onto the street into the gray daylight. The car! Elias shouted, pointing to a blue sedan parked at the corner, the extraction team. But as they ran toward it, Elias saw the driver. It wasn't the extraction team. It was the man from the café, the Stasi agent he had hit the night before. "Trap!" Elias yelled, skidding to a halt. "Abort!" The blue sedan's doors opened, and men spilled out with submachine guns. Elias dragged Katya into a subway entrance, sliding down the railing, tumbling onto the platform, just as bullets chipped the concrete where they had been standing. "They knew!" Katya screamed over the noise of an approaching train. "How did they know we would be here?" "They tapped the line," Elias realized, his face grim. "Or I have a leak. Either way, we are on our own." The train arrived, doors hissing open. They threw themselves inside. The doors closed just as the boots of their pursuers hit the platform. They rode the U-Bahn to the end of the line, then switched to a bus, then walked 2 miles into the suburbs of Spandau. Elias knew of an old safe house from the 50s, a place that had been officially decommissioned but never sold. It was a gamble, but they had nowhere else. It was a small cottage near the water. Elias picked the lock. The air inside was stale, the furniture covered in dust sheets. "We can't stay here long," Elias said, barring the door. "If the station is compromised, nowhere is safe." "What is in the bag?" Katya asked. She placed the satchel on the table. Elias opened it. Inside were notebooks, dozens of them, and maps. He opened the first notebook. It was filled with columns of numbers, supply routes, shift changes. But as he turned the pages, he realized it was more than that. It was a detailed list of every corrupt officer in the East German border guard. Names, dates, bribe amounts. "This isn't just logistics," Elias whispered. "This is blackmail material. Your father wasn't just mapping the border, he was buying it." "What does that mean?" "It means," Elias looked up, "that with this book, we can walk right through the Berlin Wall. We know exactly who to pay, exactly when to go, and exactly who will look the other way. We can leave." Hope flared in her eyes. "We can try," Elias said, "but we have to move fast. The Stasi knows we have the bag. They will tear the city apart to stop these names from getting to the West German intelligence." Night fell. The cottage was cold. Elias found a rusted heater and got it working, the coils glowing a dull orange. He needed a way out. He couldn't trust the station. He couldn't trust the phones. He needed a contact he hadn't used in years. "I have to go out," Elias said. "No," Katya grabbed his arm. "You can't leave me here." "I need a car, Katya. A car that doesn't exist on any registry. I know a man in the sector, an old smuggler. He owes me. I'm coming with you. It's too dangerous." "Staying here alone is dangerous," she argued. "I'm the one they want. If they find me here alone, I have no chance. With you, I have a chance." Elias looked at her. She had changed in the last 24 hours. The trembling waitress was gone. In her place was a survivor. "Fine, stay close." They walked through the dark streets to a garage on the outskirts of Spandau. The owner, a hulking man named Jürgen, greeted Elias with a tire iron in his hand until he recognized him. "Thorn," Jürgen spat. "I thought you were dead." "Not yet. I need a car, fast, and clean plates. It will cost you." "I have 5,000 marks in the lining of my coat," Elias said. Jürgen grinned. "Take the Opel in the back. It runs, mostly." As Jürgen counted the money, Elias saw him glance at the phone on the wall. A subtle look, a flicker of calculation. Elias drew his gun. "Put the phone down, Jürgen." "I didn't touch it," Jürgen lied, stepping back. "You were thinking about it." "Who's paying for information tonight? The Stasi?" "Everyone is paying, Thorn. The price on your head is high. They say you went rogue, kidnapped a girl." "Give me the keys," Elias ordered. He grabbed the keys from the pegboard. He ushered Katya into the car. As he started the engine, he saw Jürgen reaching for the phone again. Elias didn't shoot him. He shot the phone. The plastic shattered. "Don't follow us," Elias warned. He gunned the engine and the Opel roared into the night. "We're going to checkpoint Bravo," Elias said, driving fast down the Autobahn. "Not Charlie. Charlie is too watched. Bravo is for trucks and transit traffic." "But we don't have papers," Katya said. "We have the book," Elias tapped the satchel. "According to your father's notes, the shift commander at Bravo tonight is a Major Krentz. He took bribes in 71, 72, and 73 to let black market electronics through. If the book is accurate, we own him. And if the book is wrong, then it's going to be a very short conversation." The lights of the checkpoint loomed ahead. Concrete barriers, searchlights, guard towers. It was the physical manifestation of the Iron Curtain. Elias slowed the car. He pulled into the lane for inspection. A young guard stepped out, waving a flashlight. "Papers," the guard demanded. "I need to speak to Major Krentz," Elias said in perfect German. "The major is busy." "Papers. Tell the major that Andrei Volkov sent me. Tell him I have the ledger." The guard hesitated. The name clearly meant nothing to him, but the confidence in Elias's voice did. He stepped into the booth and picked up a phone. 2 minutes later, a heavy-set man in a uniform emerged from the main building. Major Krentz. He looked angry. He walked to the car window. "This is a restricted zone. What is this nonsense about Volkov?" Elias lifted the satchel. He opened it to a marked page. He held it up to the window. "November 14th, 1972, Elias read. 3 crates of Sony radios. 5,000 marks paid to Major K. Deposit made to a Swiss account ending in 449. Krentz's face drained of color. He looked at the book, then at Elias, then at Katya. "You are the ghost," Krentz whispered. "And you are a wealthy man, Major," Elias said. "We just want to pass. Let us through and this book disappears. Stop us, and this book goes to your superiors in East Berlin. They treat corruption harshly." Krentz looked at the guard towers. He looked at the barrier. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold. "If I let you through, they will know. You'll tell them we ran the blockade." Elias suggested, "You fired shots. We got lucky. You're incompetent, Major, but you're not a traitor. Being incompetent gets you demoted. Being a traitor gets you the wall." Krentz weighed his life against his career. He nodded, a jerky motion. He turned to the guard. "Open the gate." "But sir, they're papers." "Open the gate!" Krentz roared. The guard scrambled. The red and white striped barrier lifted. Elias shifted the car into gear. "Hold on." He drove through. Slowly at first, then gaining speed as they passed the final concrete chicane. They were in the dead zone now, the strip of land between the east and west checkpoints. They were almost free. Then, the lights flared in the rearview mirror. Not the checkpoint lights, pursuit lights. A black sedan had bypassed the barrier, ignoring Krentz roaring after them. "Stasi!" Katya screamed. "Get down!" Elias yelled. The rear window shattered. Gunfire. Elias swerved the Opel, fighting to keep it on the slick asphalt. The border crossing at Bravo led onto a bridge. They were halfway across. The black sedan rammed them. Metal screeched on metal. The Opel spun, slamming into the guardrail. The impact threw Elias forward, his head cracking against the steering wheel. Blood filled his vision. He shook it off. The engine stalled. "Out!" he gasped. "Get out!" They scrambled out of the car. They were on the bridge. Below them, dark water. Ahead of them, the lights of West Berlin. Behind them, 3 men getting out of the black sedan with weapons drawn. It was the man from the apartment, the one Elias had kicked. His face was bruised, his eyes full of hate. "End of the line, Thorne!" he shouted. Elias grabbed Katya and pushed her behind the wrecked car. He drew his Browning. He had 4 rounds left. "Go!" Elias said to Katya. "Run to the west side. The Allied guards will see you. I'm not leaving you. You have the book." Elias shoved the satchel into her arms. "The book is the mission. You are the mission. Go!" He stood up and fired 2 shots. One hit the Stasi agent in the shoulder, spinning him around. The others ducked for cover. "Run, Katya!" She looked at him one last time, tears streaming down her face mixed with rain. Then she turned and ran. She ran toward the floodlights of the American sector. Elias stayed behind the car. He fired his 3rd shot. He checked the chamber. 1 left. The Stasi agents were advancing. They knew he was cornered. Elias looked at the approaching men, then at Katya's retreating figure. She was close to the line. He saw American MPs running out from their guard post, rifles raised. She made it. Elias smiled. He dropped the gun. He raised his hands. There was no point in dying today. He had done his job. Berlin, 1976, 2 years later. The Glienicke Bridge was shrouded in fog. It was always foggy here, it seemed. Elias Thorne stood in the center of the bridge. He looked older, thinner. His hair was gray now. 2 years in an East German prison cell had taken its toll. The interrogation had been brutal, but he hadn't broken. He hadn't needed to. Katja was safe. The book had been delivered. The network of corruption in the East German border guard had been dismantled, a massive blow to the Stasi. He was the trade. A Soviet spy caught in London for a CIA case officer caught in Berlin. He walked forward. From the other side, a man in a coat walked toward the east. They passed each other in the middle. They didn't speak. They didn't look at each other. They were just currency. Elias reached the west side. A man in a suit was waiting for him. It wasn't his old chief. It was someone new. "Welcome back, Thorne," the man said. "We have a car waiting." Elias nodded. He got into the car. "There's someone who wanted to see you," the agent said. He handed Elias an envelope. Elias opened it. It was a photograph. A woman standing in front of a small house in suburban Virginia. She was smiling. She looked healthy. In her hand she held a music box. On the back of the photo, in that same shaky handwriting he remembered from a coffee-stained napkin, were 2 words. "Thank you." Elias looked at the photo. He looked out the window at the gray skyline of Berlin receding in the distance. He put the photo in his pocket, right next to his heart. "Take me home," Elias said. The car drove away, leaving the bridge and the ghosts behind.